Mr. Jeff Browne, welcome to the Trobe Financial Professional Series. You're a wonderful friend of the business and it's great to be spending some time with you today.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Chris, and you're an amazing partner for the biggest sporting club in Australia, and we really appreciate that.
No, thank you, Jeff. Now, you've had an extraordinary career, one of Collingwood's most influential under-19 footballers. You've soared to the very tops in the business world. You have led companies as CEO. You've been chair of many boards. You're now president of the Collingwood Football Club. It's been such an extraordinary career. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, it's been an interesting career, Chris, and what I've always sought to do are follow things that interest me. And like you, I began a career in the law, and very early on, I realised I didn't want the law to drag me to where it wanted me to be. So I started to practice in sports law and started looking at rules, advising people in tribunal hearings, helping players back in the 80s move from one club to another. And the VFL at the time had these very archaic rules where you were born determined who you played for. So I was moving players from club to club, issuing proceedings against the VFL to declare that their rules are an unreasonable restraint of trade. They always settled them because they didn't want to run the case, and I got my players away. And they really didn't like me to start off with, and they used to grunt at me, and then they'd sort of half wave. And then one day Alan Schwab said to me, "Look, can we have a coffee?" And he said, the first thing he said to me, he said, why are you doing this to us? I said, because your rules aren't any good. You've got to understand, you can't regulate a labour market like that. You've got to allow some greater movement based on a whole lot of factors other than where you're born. Anyway, he said, well, would you help us with that? And we started work on the draft, which I wrote those original draft rules. They had a salary cap of sorts, so we had to smarten that up. And wrote the draft rules, and for a little while I did work for the VFL, and I kept my player business going. And I remember one time Jack Hamilton, that's how far I go back, he was running the VFL at the time. He rang me and said, well, I want you to go and fix this bloke up in Sydney, he's killing the game. I said, who is he? He said, it's that Dr. Jeff Edelston. I said, well, Jack, I'd like to be able to help you, but he's actually retained me to recruit all these players. So we thought that couldn't continue. So then I entered into an exclusive retainer with the AFL VFL in 1985, and I held that retainer for 22 years, right up until the time I left the law to go to Channel 9.
In that time, you became really the architect of the legal structure of the AFL, which is an incredible achievement.
Well, at the time, the league was governed by the 12 clubs, and 12 football clubs don't agree very much. Yeah. So the notion of the commission was hatched. They came in. The commission actually hired me, so I was their legal hire. But it was more than that. I spent a lot of time in the commission rooms with people like Peter Scanlon and Graham Samuel and Peter Nixon, and like really well qualified guys. And after that, Ron Evans, Colin Cutter, Bill Kelty, those sort of people. So it was a real privilege for me to be in there and be debating my ideas with people who were testing me really, really hard on my ideas. And but I think we came up with a really good result. They trusted me enough to send me to Perth to say, go over there and negotiate the entry of the West Coast Eagles and bring back a cheque for $4 million. So took me 3 weeks to do that. And what was funny about that, I'd sit in a room. I took the CFO from the VFL with me. We'd argue all day, like furious argument, and we'd all go out and have dinner every night at night, and we'd stay out and they'd stay on and have a few drinks, and we'd turn up the next day and we'd argue again. And anyway, it was an interesting process, and I eventually rang them up after 3 weeks and said, I got your agreement. And got your money. And I said, good. They said, now, will you go to Brisbane, and there's a fellow up there called Christopher Skase. So then I went to Brisbane and went through the same thing. But interesting story, Christopher Skase, don't call me Chris, he used to say. Ross Oakley was the CEO at the time. And so I said to Ross, look, I've got him. I've got a deal. But Christopher wants to do it in a press conference. So Ross flew to Brisbane, and we were going to have a press conference. I said to Ross, I said, have you got the money? He said, no. I said, I think we should get the money before we have a press conference. And anyway, Christopher then pulled an envelope out of his pocket and gave it to Ross. Ross started to open it. Christopher leaned over and said, Ross, he said, a gentleman never opens an envelope in public. So we had the press conference, announced the birth of the Brisbane Bears, who are now the Brisbane Lions, of course, after a merger with Fitzroy. Anyway, not long after the press conference, we stood down, Ross opened the envelope, and there was nothing in it. So it was a lot of fun.
Great memories.
A lot of fun.
What attracted you to leadership? So leadership there, a really senior role in the AFL, and, you know, as you say, when you left the AFL, one leadership role after another. What is it about leadership that attracted you?
I don't know whether it attracted me or it just sort of stuck within me. It might have resided in me, but I had opportunities to express that. And yeah, I learned because of some of the names I mentioned, that, you know, I was surrounded by seriously intelligent, successful leaders in commerce and industry. And so I learned from them, and Ron Evans was a huge influence on me. I learned that to be a good leader, you needed to listen. You need to gain the trust of the person sitting opposite you, even if you had divergent views. It wasn't necessary for everyone to like you, but if they trusted you, that was really important, and important for your team to be able to see that. So the other one, I think, decision making. You've got to make decisions. You know, there are so many people you see, and you'll see many of them, Chris, where they run around and get advice and then get more advice, and they end up getting so confused. Whereas I think you've got to work your way through the problem, be decisive, and implement the solution. Sometimes you might get it wrong if you're a firm, quick decision maker, but you're better to make decisions and get a few wrong than to muddle around or not make them.
Yeah, certainly.
So I think firm decision making and the trust of the people around you. One of the things that made a big impression on me at Collingwood, when I came in to be president, we had the Do Better report and the recommendations. So we set up the first truth-telling process in Australia,
Yes.
Collingwood Football Club. We did it in conjunction with the Department of Restorative Justice at the RMIT, led by Rob Hulls, former Attorney General of the State of Victoria. And we all know the expression, some people hear, but do they really listen? But I learned about deep listening. And deep listening means putting yourself in the other person's shoes and imagining the effect on them. Not how I viewed it should be. And so listening went to another level as a result of that. You know, deep listening and empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, which I think in the road to reconciliation, I think it's critically important.
Yeah.
And it's been a very enriching experience for me, and keeps me young because I keep learning these things. And I think whenever you stop learning, then you're probably done.
Yeah. So we all are shaped by personal experiences, and clearly that's meant a lot to you. But you've had your share of personal challenges too. So just in the last couple of years, Jeff, you've had, it's no secret, it's been well publicised. You've had a real battle with your health, and you've had a bout of cancer, which, you know, it seems like you're coming out the other side in really good shape. But that would have been a really significant personal moment for you. And how has that shaped your approach to leadership?
Yeah, well, it has had an effect on me. I went to Cabrini Hospital here with pneumonia, and doctor walked in my room and said, I've got good news and bad news. And he said, good news is we can fix your pneumonia, but we've discovered you've got multiple myeloma. And of course, my initial reaction said, well, what can you give me to fix that? And I said, no, it's incurable. And so I had to mull on that for a while, and brought my children into that. An immediate effect was to focus on my family. And one thing about confronting your mortality is that I have this great cloud of honesty descends on like you become incredibly honest in your responses. You need to do what you know is right. Not that I thought I didn't do that, but it's become so important to me now that whatever I can do in whatever time I have left will be the very best I can do, and I will apply whatever I've learned over my life. And that usually surfaces in what people call instinct. And I think when you become an experienced executive and when you've been knocked around in boardrooms for 30 years, you develop good instincts. So I trust those probably more. Is that I've responded very well to treatment, and I am in remission. And recently, one of the leading myeloma professors asked me to go and speak with 2 other professors on a little tour where they speak to donors, people with various forms of blood cancer. There's a revolution going on in relation to treatment of a whole lot of disease at the moment, cancers, particularly blood cancers, where a lot of this research is. It's a shift from chemotherapy to immunotherapy. Chemotherapy, they just blast it out of you. Immunotherapy, they extract T cells from your body, modify them in the laboratory, teach those cells to fight cancer, and inject them back into your body. So they go through quite a discourse on that. And then I end up rounding up the show. They call me up and I talk about the power of positive thinking. I talk about how you can actually do much better in the journey if you're positive about the outcome in the future. And if you're still working, that was important to me, and applying yourself, getting good outcomes, all that's worthwhile. You can't drop your bundle. And so it's really forced me to be the very best version of myself that I can be now.
Yeah, someone who has been privileged to, watch you through this part of your journey, Jeff, and see that up close. It's been extraordinary how strong, how positive, how open he's been. I saw on that wonderful day in September when the Pies won their Premiership, I saw, that was a tough day for you.
That was probably my worst day, Chris.
But you stood strong.
Well, I had a
smile on your face.
Yeah, wow.
Thoughts were about the team, the fans, everyone who worked so hard for that.
Yeah.
They're quite extraordinary.
Yeah. But I felt so happy for those people, even though I wasn't feeling well. But I know the people that worked hard, our supporters who had craved that, people who scraped the money to be able to go to the football, to buy a scarf. Still, a year down the track, I get people contact me, I get emails, people write letters on, and I feel that's a great privilege that I've had to be able to lead an effort that's delivered so much joy to so many people. And that made me really happy on that day, even though for me personally, certainly wasn't my best day. So my day started quite early and ended quite late. And don't know how much we want to get into this, and you might edit it out, but while we're all there cheering and hoping our side's going to win the grand final, at halftime I was in the disabled toilet at the MCC giving myself an enema.
Yes.
So, but did I worry about that? No, I knew, bang, I'll do that, I'll get myself right, and I'll be able to come back and enjoy as much as I can of this game. And I went to the centrepiece and I actually spoke to everyone there. And because I was so proud and so happy for so many people, got off the stage and walked around the room and said hello to as many people as I could, went home, and that was the end of my grand final celebrations. It wasn't about me, it was about, rewarding the hard work of the players, the coaching staff, all the support staff, everyone who works in our club. We saw a huge transformation. People were happy coming to work. They enjoyed their job, and we created a culture where people were encouraged to come to work each day to do a PB, and not only that, to help the people around them do a PB. We're all very collaborative. One of the things we did do, and I brought some senior people in, other people who had worked with me in other businesses, and really there were some young people there, and I probably gave them a job that might have been a bit ahead of them, but can't tell you, not one of those people who disappointed me. So I had the young, enthusiastic people being given an opportunity, and probably sooner than they might have got, and the experience above them that could give them some guidance and help them on their journey. So it was, we created quite a unique culture fairly quickly, and I like to think that contributed in some way to the final outcome.
Jeff, you had to put a lot of trust in those young people, and that's just struck a chord with me, because earlier you were talking about the importance of trust for a leader, earning trust, deserving trust, acting in a way where people can trust you, even if perhaps you're not their cup of tea, you're not their favourite person, perhaps they're on the other side of the table. So talk to us about that. Let's just drill down on trust. How have you built trust at Collingwood?
Well, respecting the people, giving people an opportunity, providing support for people to make the most of the opportunities they're given, bringing in experienced people who could provide guidance, as I mentioned before, created a great tension, a push up and a push down that created a great outcome for us, and we were all really happy about that dynamic and developed a real sense of trust between ourselves in what we were doing.
And somehow that embedded something else which is really important. So for us here at the Trobe Financial, we talk all the time about excellence, the importance of holding yourself to the very highest standard that you humanly possible. It's hard to think of a more focused, high-performance environment than a professional sports club. The immediacy of the feedback you get from the fans, from your coach, from the press, from the opposition fans, from everyone. It could be overwhelming for those young people competing in those sports. How do you build that culture of excellence, and then knowing that you're operating in such a high-profile environment, how do you build that resilience?
Well, I think you start with pride in your performance and leadership. You've got leaders will get you through, and you trust that people in leadership positions are making good decisions for the business. I mean, Collingwood's not a business; it's curious, sort of a mixture between entertainment, sport, politics, and business. But a lot of the lessons that we learn in competitive sport, and you rightly point out that you're under so much scrutiny that if you muck up, your coach will tell you, your fans will tell you, and you read about it in the Herald Sun. But the lesson is, do your best, be your best, help people around you be the best, be well led, listen to your leaders, respect your leaders.
So you have within your playing ranks some real superstars of the game. You've got a great captain in Darcy Moore. You've got Scott Pendlebury, an absolute ornament to the entire code. You've got the Dacos boys, an incredible story. They're a wonderful story, and so many others. Do you see, when you watch these on-field performers, do you see common traits, and what are they? How do they really draw the best out of themselves?
Well, I think it's the pride in their performance, and I know when I was at the Australian Open last year, and it was a semi-final, it was a big match, and I was sitting there, and I actually wasn't feeling that well, so I thought, I had my daughter with me, I thought, look, do you mind if we go home before the match finishes? And I went down, and as I'm walking out the door, I saw Scott and Alex Pendlebury, And I said to him, Scott, it's one of the big games, and you're leaving. He said to me, I've got training in the morning. So that sort of dedication. Yeah, recently we held a dinner at Collingwood on a Saturday night for the 50th anniversary of our coterie group, the Woodsmen. So we met at the front of the building and then walked the crowds through to go up to the Glass House. This is 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Nick Dacos is in there with a basketball shooting hoops. Brought a friend along from school friend. He's there working to get better. And that sort of permeated the whole group. And there are other stars that you mentioned, but a guy like Brody Mychik goes out there. I've never seen a player give more of himself. Is he a superstar? He is to me because of the way he attacks the footy and the way he applies himself. There is a guy that has absolutely got the best out of himself. So the superstars, they're leaving the tennis early. They're coming in on a Saturday night to train, and you got a guy who is giving his all, and forgive me for putting it crudely, busting his guts every week. That sort of inspires everyone else around you.
Can't replace hard work.
No, you can't.
We will never replace that. In terms of holding people accountable, you've got young personalities, you've got people from all different walks of life there at Collingwood. You've got a membership base who will always expect big things. Mm-hmm. You've got an adoring and then critical football public at the same time. Mm-hmm. You've got press. There's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of immediate feedback. How does the team absorb all of that and turn that into something productive, something inspiring, rather than something that weighs them down and holds them back?
Well, I think we have to accept that we're accountable, right? That we will be measured. We'll measure ourselves, but others will measure us. And we have to be accountable for good performance, poor performance, individual performance, team performance. So if you accept that you need to be measured and that your outcomes, all as much as they can be, should be measurable, then you have to accept you're going to be accountable. And being accountable is, I think, a component of that honesty that I spoke about, that got to accept criticism, not get carried away with praise, but know that others will have views that you need to listen to in relation to your own performance, even your persona, how you conduct yourself out of the football club. Football, young men and women playing football know that they're subject to scrutiny, but I think it's not a bad thing to be accountable if you're accountable to a set of values set by the club that are anchored in honesty, trust, hard work, respect, dedication.
One of the things we love about the Collingwood Football Club here at La Trobe, Jeff, is your commitment to doing more in the community, to making a difference. And it's sort of the realisation, I think we see it more and more in the modern world, that being good at what you do is not enough. You got to be good at what you do. That's the non-negotiable. But then you've got to find ways to make a difference in the communities in which you're living, which you're working, playing footy. So how does Collingwood think about that? How do you drive that through? Because you've been incredibly successful at driving it through the whole club, and anyone who gets to witness it up close is struck. How do you do that?
Well, that's the responsibility part of it. With playing AFL football and playing for Collingwood, with that comes a responsibility. And responsibility is, we're a big brand. You know, we are a powerful influence. How can we use that influence to help all of us be better people? So we have the Magpie Nest program, which we run in conjunction with the Salvation Army. We feed 3,500 people each week who might not otherwise have something to eat or something nutritious to eat, or in winter have something hot to eat. They can come in there and we can look after them. We have 42 houses that we rent from government, and we then let out on a subsidised basis to other families who wouldn't otherwise have shelter. So food and shelter. So, and the players, I don't have to ask them to go and work in the Magpie Nest Cafe. They want to go and do it. And they feel that that's part of our club's responsibility and theirs. And they step right up to this, that, we need to make a difference. We had a problem with racism at Collingwood when I got there. And we had 17 recommendations from the Do Better report, and I was determined to implement those, and we've implemented all of them. And we've definitely got better to a point that when I first arrived, Leon Davis was suing the club. One of the first things I did was, with Jody Sizer, my vice president, identify that Leon was the captain coach of the Hayward Football Club. So I drove down and met Jody there, and it's one of those country football games where you pay your $10 to drive in the gate. And when I got out of my car, a number of the Indigenous women there recognised who I was, and Chris, I got called everything you can imagine. Told to get in my car and get out of there. And I sort of understand why, and I saw Leon standing over on the boundary, so I made my way over to him through this noise, and I said, look, I've just come down to introduce myself, to talk to you, to see how we can try and find a way forward. But if I'm embarrassing you by being here, I said, I'll go. And Leon, to his credit, said, no, I'd like you to stay. So I stayed at halftime. I got up, and we have a Deadly Choices program we run in that area where First Nations people can come in for a health check, and we actually give them a T-shirt, Deadly Choices T-shirts, quite a cool shirt. So, but that's the incentive for to come in and do the health check, and you pick up, early signs of diabetes and other things that otherwise wouldn't happen. It's a very worthwhile program. It's another program that we run at the club. Anyway, Leon he went out and he started playing and coaching, and one of the other Indigenous guys there approached me and said, would you like to come and have a look around? So I saw the eel traps and the fish traps, and I saw the keeping place that they'd actually built, and that was a real awakening for me in relation to my consciousness and appreciation of that culture. And that really helped me connect with Leon, because I connected with him at a much better level when I saw him next than I did before I drove into that football ground. And as a result of that, we went through the truth-telling with Leon. I heard his stories. I apologise on behalf of our football club for all of the hurt that some people's deeds and words had done, and I learned quickly it's not whether the person who said what they said meant to hurt them. It's were those words hurtful to the recipient, and they were. So I owned up to that, apologised for that, said, Leon, I need your help to fix this, I need to get better. So a couple more meetings, and Leon then came back to the club and ran our program, and he's still there today running our program.
The 2024 season wasn't as successful as 2023. There was injuries, there was all sorts of mischance. Some Collingwood supporters have told me there was a dodgy umpiring decision too at some critical moments.
Yeah.
How does the club reflect on 2024, and how do you see 2025 shaping up?
Well, firstly, I'm really proud of our effort in 2024. There was no lack of effort. We played some kids because of an horrendous run of injuries, but our players never gave up. Always thought we could get there. The coach said to me, thought if we got in, we would win it. And I believe that too. I don't think there's any club in that 8 that would like to play Collingwood in the final. I just still don't believe that, because we've been there, we know what it's like, we're going to bring our best. but injuries, not umpire. Players make a lot more mistakes than umpires, but and no excuses. It just didn't go our way. 2 draws. We missed the finals by percentage. We played a lot of young players. Our older players, Scott Pendlebury, of course, celebrated his 400th game and has been an outstanding contributor this year. Jeremy Howe back in the side was a really important player for us, and I think Steele Sidebottom was, if he wasn't our best player, he was our best 3 players in the last few games of the year. So I think it's important to keep those, and I'll call them veterans. And I think the younger guys get a lot out of learning from them. So I think as we turn into 2025, with a modicum of luck, I expect we'll be right up there pushing for it. And
we at Trobe Financial, we're 100% behind you. We have no doubt you'll come back hard in 2020.
Well, we will. There'll be no question about our effort. Our ability's there. We've proved that. One thing, Chris, about getting to the mountaintop, it's not a bad view up there, so we're going back for another look.
We'll end on that note.
Okay.
Jeff Browne, President of the Collingwood Football Club, the mighty Collingwood Football Club, thank you so much for your generous time, and thanks for joining us on Trobe Financial's Professional Series.
Thank you, Chris, and can I just say again how important our partnership with Trobe has been. We've talked a lot about me and our performance at Collingwood, but I know that you've just passed $20 billion assets under management, and as a scoreboard, that's got a big light behind it.
We're excited.
Yeah, and to see you achieving as you are really stimulates us as well. So we know that our partners, and you in particular, are out there kicking goals in your area, and I think it's a great partnership, one we value greatly and one we appreciate so much. Thank you.
Jeff Browne, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.